Hi and welcome to this video log from me, Wayne, from swimmingcyclingrunning.com. Well, what did happen to Alistair Brownlee this weekend on the Gold Coast in the ITU final? He actually had a race that he's never had before. And I'm not talking about his DQ. I'm talking about why couldn't he stay with the people that he normally swims with. He's normally at the front of the pack, but this time he just did not make it. And I think there are reasons for that. He's a tremendous racer. He's probably the best one-day racer in the history of triathlon. Why didn't he do well? Not only why didn't he do well, but why was he so far back that he actually had no chance, DQ or no DQ, in being competitive within the race?
So here we have the lineup on the pontoon. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 we have Mario Mola, Jacob Bertwistle, Vincent Louis, Richard Murray and Henry Schumann. Now these are the 5 people who are at the head of affairs in the ITU races, and they're the ones who are really going out for a whim. And what's more, in 2 of these, Vincent Louis and Henry Schumann, we have tremendous swimmers. So we have a little group effectively on this side of the podium who are exceptional triathletes, and we have some fast swimmers in there. At the other end of the podium you have Alistair Brownlee. Now Alistair Brownlee is there, and he's surrounded by people he's not used to being with. And not only that, he's surrounded by people who aren't used to being with him. That, I think, is hugely important. So we have the good athletes effectively at this end going to dive in. We have Johnny Brownlee there, and we have Richard Varga here, and right at the end we have Alistair Brownlee. Another thing I'd like you to note is the strength of this wind. Look at that wind, it's just huge. You know what it's like running into a wind. And you can imagine swimming into it is not quite as bad, but nearly as bad. Another factor is current, and the current is flowing this way, but it's stronger on the outside than the inside, so it's slowly but surely getting weaker and weaker as we go towards the inside, giving the people on the right of our picture less of a boost than the people on our left. And I just want to think a minute about mentality, because what we have is a completely different mentality from the people here and the people here. Effectively, the people to the left are thinking, we can win this. We can not only win the race, but we can also win the championship. While the people on the right here are thinking, we have no hope of winning this championship, but there's one thing that's here that's not normally here, and that's an Alistair Brownlee. Now, if we can come out of this race, this swim, with Alistair Brownlee, this could change our effective career forever. So I'm absolutely convinced that these people over here are going to go hell for leather to try and stay with Alistair Brownlee, because they know if they get out on the bike with him, they've got a chance of changing effectively their triathlon lives.
We're coming up to close to the first 100 metres. I'm just going to slow it down. I want you to see these kicks where the water's going from the spray. See, every time someone kicks, and that's a kick there, the water actually isn't going backwards, it's going forward. That's a huge kick there. If we look at this one here, the kick happens backwards, the spray comes up, but the spray is actually being pushed forwards. That shows that the wind here is absolutely incredible. Let's go up to full speed. And that's happening all the way over. And you can see this format is now developing. And this group here on the right hand side is actually going over to the left. So is Richard Varga. But the group that started on the right hand side effectively as they were looking at it at the podium, left hand side as we did, is actually able to go straight. That makes a big difference for them. Makes a big difference in terms of their effort, because obviously the current's going that way as well. The current's going that way as well, so it's pushing these people. If the current's going that way and these people are having to cross it on the right hand side, they're actually having to do more work. We're coming up to the 100 metre mark. Richard Varga's out front now, he's the person doing it, and I clock that at 1 minute 12. So here we are, coming quite close to the buoy at 300 metres. And on the left-hand side, as we look at it, right-hand side of the field, so these are the people on the right-hand side of the podium, left as we looked at it, we have all the main protagonists. You see that's number 10. We have number 2 here, which is Vincent Louis. And just inside of that, we have Henry Schoeman. And they are all effectively heading towards Richard Varga's feet, which is here. And he's heading to the first turnaround, which is at 300 metres. Now, as he turns, I'm going to click my clock, and we'll take that as there. And I have that at 3 minutes 39. So he's actually gone through 300 metres in 3 minutes 39. That's 1:13 per 100 metres.
So we're getting a combination of factors. We're getting the wind, the current, the motivation of the people around Alistair, the fact that he's not normally in that position, the fact that he's normally with Richard Varga, who he knows the feet of and can get on them very quickly. So all of this, I think, is combining to just prevent Alistair do his normal thing in a race.
So we're just going to look at when Alistair hits the same buoy. Alistair is there and is swimming really in company that he doesn't normally keep. And he's coming into the buoy. He's gone underneath the buoy there and trying to get round it. He's stayed underwater and then he comes out again, and obviously that is not necessarily completing the course. But you can see how he's swimming. He's having to swim that. Now I had him clocked at 3 minutes 57 seconds when he hit that buoy at 300 metres. That's 1 minute 19 per 100 metres. So going back to 30 metres from the start, we have a combination of factors that are occurring. We have current coming from this direction here. We also have a hellishly strong wind coming from this direction here. And that is effectively pushing the back people who normally are at the back slightly forward, which means the people at the front, who include people like Alistair Brownlee here, can't get away as fast as they might do in normal circumstances. We've also got a chop coming against them. So we have a combination of factors which includes the fact that these incredibly motivated athletes to stay with Alistair Brownlee are actually pushing really hard, being aided both by current and wind, and the people at the front are being hampered by the chop in front of them.
So, if we take Richard Varga's 300 time from his total time, we get 14:55. That means he did the 1200 metres next in 14:55. And if we do the same for Alistair, we get 15 minutes 15. Now the difference between those two times is only 20 seconds. So in the first 300 metres of the race, Alistair lost 21 seconds to Richard Varga. In the rest of the race, he only lost 20. And remember, he's not swimming on the feet now of the most or the fastest people in the race. So we have to ask ourselves, has he lost it? Is this the end of Alistair Brownlee? Well, if you look at the races he's done earlier in the year, they've all been 70.3s. In fact, 2 weeks ago he did the 70.3 World Championships and came second. And in that, his swim was 21:58. Now that's for 1900 metres. Now that is 109.5, 109.5 virtually per 100 metres. And in the two before that, in China and in Dubai, he did 21:49 and 22:36. Now those times are 109 again, dead on, and 111 per 100 metres over a 1900 metre swim. So we can't really explain away Alistair's performance by thinking, hang on a minute, he's just got old, he's past it. No, instead I think we have to look to other factors. When you do a 70.3, you're looking to go out and maintain virtually the whole race, just an even pace. You're trying, it's a much longer distance. We're talking about a race at least 2.5 or 2.25 times the length of a standard distance in terms of time. And so you start out with a smaller field, and you start out with a field that's not trying to actually just beat you up and try and get to the front. And I think that affected Alistair more than you think it might, because all his training would have been for an even-paced, nice swim, until he came to the final event of the year, which was going to be the Gold Coast. And suddenly we have to change tacks. We have to change tacks to one where you have to think, I have to get out over that first 100 metres in about 1 minute to 1 minute and 4 pace. And if I can do that, I'll be on the feet of the really good people, and I can just slow down to my normal triathlon race pace. Now, triathlon race pace for these really good swimmers tends to be around 110 per 100 in a 1500 metre swim. So we look at Alistair's performances in the 70.3s, and there's no way he's not good enough to actually maintain that pace. So what I think happened is I think training happened. When you train for a fast start, you really put in those efforts, then you get back down into your triathlon race pace in the pool. And I don't think he's done enough of it. So various things are combining to actually say that Alistair can't get out ahead of everybody else because he just hasn't done the training. And that, coupled with the fact that we've got a tailwind and a current, and that's pushing the people from behind, he can't break free. He can't break free of them. They're incredibly motivated to stay with him. Wouldn't you be if you were swimming next to Alistair Brownlee? So do we write Alistair off? Do we say, he's finished in ITU races, the Olympic style format is not for him anymore? I think that would be a hell of a mistake. He's proven himself to be someone who can suffer and suffer and suffer. And when he's suffering, he's thinking the others are suffering more. And all he has to do is be injury free and train for the right kind of race, and he'll be there again. He hasn't got the running speed at the moment, and that he knows. He's a very bright cookie, is Alistair Brownlee. He knows exactly where his deficiencies are. Now, if he doesn't believe he can raise his run speed, I don't think he'll go for the Olympics, because I don't think he's going to go there to come fourth. But if his run speed is okay, if he knows that he can get back to actually running close to Mario Mola's pace and Richard Murray's pace, then he can do enough on the bike and the swim to actually be in front of them. And he has a chance to win a third Olympic medal. He just has to do the right training. He has to be able to put that intensity in. But I don't know if he wants to do that anymore. Well, there's another series of racing coming up, the Super Series, in which he is in, I believe John is in, and also Vicky Holland's in, and Jodie Stimpson, people like that. It should be an interesting series to watch. It's a different format, so it doesn't suit anyone in particular all that well. Anyway, that's all for this week. Hopefully you've enjoyed that little bit of analysis on what really did happen to Alistair Brownlee. Thanks very much. See you next week.